This video is the first of 3 videos on summaries. Learning to summarize information is an important part of developing research skills. In this video, we will be looking at the different types of summaries you may encounter at school and at work. These include conclusions, summaries, and abstracts, as well as other types of workplace summaries. There are 3 types of summaries that you will likely be familiar with. Sometimes the terminologies may be confusing. For instance, we often don't think of a conclusion as a summary, but you will often write a conclusion that is a closing summary. You may also have encountered the term abstract in writing. An abstract is a particular form of a summary. Remember, too, that the word abstract has more than one meaning. Think here of an abstract idea. The closing summary or conclusion is perhaps the easiest to get your head around. It is, of course, the piece that appears in the conclusion section of your essay or report. It will review the main findings of your paper or report, so all that stuff that you've already discussed. However, simply regurgitating everything you've already written is not adequate. You need to choose the most important findings and rephrase how you discuss the importance of those findings. In other words, don't say the same thing using the same words. Make it interesting for the reader. The closing summary is intended to remind the reader of your most important evidence and points. The closing summary is not the only thing to appear in a conclusion. You must also place those findings in perspective. After you summarize your main findings, you must answer the so what and who cares questions. Just providing facts in an essay or report is not enough. You must tell the reader why they should care. As one professor told me when I was a student, hit the reader over the head with your point. Don't leave the reader guessing what exactly you mean or why you think this is important. Sometimes you may be asked to provide a summary of a report or a conference. This is called an informative abstract. It condenses the full report, providing all the important facts, conclusions, and recommendations. In terms of placement, the summary would precede the main report. It is often included in the report as part of the front matter. So the front matter includes things like the table of contents, list of figures, and so on. The summary is usually read first so that busy people can decide if they need to read the full report or not. When you've created a particularly long report, the summary, which is often called the executive summary, is read instead of the full report. So here is an example of an executive summary. On this website, you can see there are a number of links to various parts of the policy document. And down here, you see the link for the executive summary. If I click on the executive summary, then the table of contents for the summary will come up. You can look here and see how much information is contained just in the executive summary. The longer the main report is, the longer the executive summary will be. For example, with a 100-page report, it is not unusual to have a 10-page executive summary. Another example might be the Drummond Report, which was released in February 2012. That report is almost 600 pages long, and the executive summary is about 67 pages long. Now, a descriptive abstract is different yet again. This is the one that is often called an abstract. You will likely see such an abstract as part of a scholarly article. It will either be separate from the actual article, so in a collection of article abstracts, or it might appear on the title page. In this case that I will show you, the abstract talks about the report's purpose, the contents, and information sources, but it does not provide key facts, conclusions, or recommendations. It provides enough information for you to decide if the article is relevant to your research. So here's 2 examples. In this first example, we have a very short 1-sentence abstract. So this one over here in the gray section, reading and writing graphic novels can be motivating, and so on. That's a 1-sentence abstract. In the second example, the abstract is longer. So here, if I scroll down, you can see it's a short paragraph. It's only 3 sentences long. Some will be up to a dozen sentences long. It really depends on the journal in this case. Most journals will require a fairly short abstract, maybe about 50 words. So this is why it's important to learn how to summarize material concisely and accurately, because sometimes that's the only thing that readers will read. So we focus so far on academic style summaries, but you will regularly encounter different forms of summaries when on the job. For example, if you're attending a meeting, you will notice someone taking notes or minutes, which are later circulated among all members of the group. Minutes serve the purpose of keeping a record of what was decided at meetings, who is responsible for moving forward with action items, and so on. They also allow members who were absent to see what was missed. For some groups, such as boards of directors, the minutes serve a legal function and are required to be kept. If you are working on a project, you may also be required to provide regular progress reports. Depending on how often you report, they may be short or they may be long. Sometimes you may have to provide weekly reports, other times it might be monthly reports, and so on. In some cases, you may have to provide a summary of technical information for your fellow employees. If you've gone in a trainee program, for example, you might have to bring your coworkers the information they also need to know. Similarly, a boss may require you to read a long report and provide a summary for him or her. Or perhaps you've written a report and you're required to summarize the report verbally at a meeting. There are many types of summaries that you may have to do for any number of reasons. The basic method for creating the summary will be almost the same for all situations. In this video, we've discussed some basic types of summaries and how to create an effective summary. What are some different types of summaries? What is an executive summary? What is an abstract? And then also, what are some examples of summaries you might encounter in the workplace? Thank you for listening.